So it's been a few days now, and wanted to address all the people who were asking for commentary regarding the Hakim Littleton shooting. So one of the things that I'm sure most of you have seen the video. If you haven't seen the video, you just Google the name and you'll see the video. And of course there's protests. The protests have turned violent. Police, had to arrest a lot of people for assault, and it's just a mess, of course. And of course there are some people asking, why are they protesting after they see the video, which for those of you who haven't seen it, long story short, Mr. Littleton and one of his associates were walking. His associate, his friend, was wanted in connection to what I believe was a shooting that occurred the previous day. So, anti-crime task force was out. They spotted him, and they moved in to make the arrest, which you see in the video. The friend, who is the wanted person, doesn't resist, gives up, and is being handcuffed, is not putting up a fight at all. Mr. Littleton is standing by to the left of his friend and decides to reach down into, it looks like a cargo pocket of sorts, and pull out a gun and point it at the head of a police officer who was standing there just a couple of feet away from him. So for what it's worth, there are black officers on scene affecting arrests as well. And it's hard to tell in the video if the officer that Mr. Littleton pointed the gun at his head was black. He looks like he was a black officer, but there are other white officers on scene as well. But there were multiple black officers. So this is just, that's, the race thing's out of the question. And Mr. Littleton proceeds to fire 2 shots at the officer's head. He misses, and the officer, disregarding his own safety, takes Mr. Littleton down to the ground. And Mr. Littleton, while on the ground, is said to have fired 2 more shots while on the ground. Unknown specifically if any officers got hit. I don't believe so from what I've read. It's all on body camera and also dash cam footage. So Mr. Littleton dies from his injuries, and riots begin. So the people who are asking, the people who are rioting or protesting, rioting and protesting, they're saying they want justice for Mr. Littleton. And then the people on the other side are saying, why in the world are these people rioting? This guy pulled out a gun and pointed at the head of a police officer, fired 2 shots, luckily missed, and then was shot, tackled, and fired 2 more shots still. How is that in any way an unjustified shooting? People don't get that. So, a lot of people sending me the video, a lot of people asking me questions about, what do you think? Okay, listen. I don't know at what point we got here as a country and as a society where you can pull out a gun when not even you are getting arrested, but someone else is getting arrested. And you could pull out a gun and attempt to execute a police officer. And in the commission of that crime, you're shot by the police and killed, and now there's uproar and protests and violence. that's where we are as a country, where trying to execute a police officer in cold blood in broad daylight is now met with protest. For what? I don't know. That's a sad state of affairs. But now here's the thing that most people are not talking about. When you protest something that 99.9% of people are going to watch that video and say, okay, this guy pulled out a gun, tried to execute a police officer in broad daylight, tried to shoot him right in the face, missed, got shot. Okay. Pretty cut and dry. If you pull out a gun and you try to shoot the police, it's not going to end well for you. You're now protesting that. My opinion, for what it's worth, is that takes away from people in this situation, people of color, who have actually experienced true police violence, whether they were doing nothing, or they were just maybe lightly resisting arrest, whatever it may be, and they end up getting shot or hurt or beat or choked or whatever. I would say those people who are protesting the people of those lives, and you could talk about what their backgrounds were and all that. I know we can get into that, but we're not gonna. But those people, you could understand the protest, and you could understand the anger, and you could understand some other things. I don't think burning buildings down is ever justified. But if you want to protest and you want to be angry and upset, okay. But to protest and be angry and upset and be violent for Mr. Littleton, who tried to execute a police officer, well, that just hurts your identity and that hurts the cause, right? Because now people are looking at this and saying, well, these people are just going to be rioting for anything. This guy just tried to murder a cop in broad daylight, and now they're rioting, they're protesting. That only hurts the next. So that what that does is it gets people to care less about the protest. It gets people to marginalize the protests. Because now people are saying, these people are crazy. They're just protesting anything and everything because they just feel like it. These people, they don't even care what they're protesting. They're just protesting. And that's going to hurt the next person, because we know it's going to happen again, because cops aren't perfect, right? We know it's going to happen again, where a police officer is going to do something that is going to hurt or violate the rights of a person of color, whatever it may be, and people are going to be upset, and people are going to protest. Maybe someone might lose their life, who knows? But people are going to be upset. There will be protests. There will be violence. There will be anger. And maybe rightfully so. And people are going to be like, yeah, just another protest. Yeah, whatever. The guy was probably justified, whatever. Stop. It's the same thing I said with people talking about racism. People throw the word racist around all the time now, real easy. Oh, you're a racist. You're a racist. Oh, you wore a certain hat. You're a racist. You bought a certain can of beans. You're a racist. You know, what that does is it actually takes away from the victims of actual racism. And victims of actual racism are going to be marginalized because people are just throwing racist around like it's no big deal. Oh, you voted for this guy? You're a racist. Oh, you live in this state? You're a racist. Oh, you believe in this? You're a racist. That only hurts the true victims. It doesn't help anything. Rioting for someone who tried to execute a cop only hurts the next person who is an actual victim of police violence. And that's what I don't understand. And I think that's what some of these people don't understand. I see a lot of people out there who are doing this. And I think they're doing it because it's the cool thing to do. But they're not realizing they're hurting the greater good. They are hurting the greater good by doing that. Are people going to listen? No, because that's their go-to now. Oh, you're a racist. You're this, you're that. It's only hurting the greater good. And people who are actual victims need to stand up and say, hey, listen, you need to stop. I'm a victim of actual racism. Stop saying that guy because he's wearing like a t-shirt is a racist. Or because he bought a can of beans is a... Stop with that. You want to know real racism? Talk to me. I have been a victim of racism. And to any victim of true racism, seeing that stuff is offensive. Because they're looking at it like, wait, that's not racism. You want to see racism? Let me tell you my story. I'll show you racism. That's not racism. That is the issue that no one's seeing right now. And that is what's happening. If you're going to riot for something, you shouldn't be rioting. But if you're going to protest something that has just cause. Protesting this stuff where you're just protesting an outright criminal just makes all the people who might have been on your side, it makes all those people look at you and say, yeah, this is just another, these people just don't even care what they're protesting about. This guy was a criminal. He tried to murder a cop in broad daylight. It's on video. Now they're just protesting anything. So the next protest, they're going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. They're not even going to listen. And that is not what you want. When you protest, you want people to listen. You want your voice to be heard. You do not want people looking at you like, here they go again. About nothing. So just think about that. Think about what your cause is and which fights you want to fight and what's the hill you want to die on. Just think about that before you sit there and act for the sake of acting. Think about what is your goal and what's the outcome you're after here. Don't hurt the cause just to be out there doing something. And wash your hands. Some virus going around.